Back to the heat. We're talking about the Women's World Cup football tournament taking place in Canada. Joining us now from Ottawa is Sarah Murray. She has spent 2 decades promoting gender inclusion in sports. She is the U.S. Director for Women Win, an organization that empowers young girls in sport. Also joining us from Buenos Aires is Juliana Roman Lozano. She coaches girls football teams in Argentina. Welcome to both of you to the show. Sarah, let me start with you. The Women's World Cup now taking place. We are into the knockout stage. What do you make of the tournament so far?
Oh, it's been a fantastic tournament. Going from, we've got 24 teams in the tournament this time around. When it started, the Women's World Cup in '91, we had 12 teams. The last World Cup in Germany, we had 16 teams. So it's been a really exciting tournament with some really fun new teams in the mix. With Thailand, Ecuador, Cameroon, and clearly it's not just that these teams that are coming from countries that we haven't heard women's soccer have much of a legacy, but they're actually performing quite well. So Colombia having an incredible upset against France was really exciting for the soccer community. Ecuador basically holding off Japan to a 1-0 decision, and Costa Rica and Brazil. So a lot of heart, a lot of fun new teams. It's been a great tournament so far.
Juliana, what do you think? Have you been following the competition closely?
Yes, I have been trying to follow. I have to do that on the internet because there's no local channel whatsoever that shows the teams or the matches of the World Cup. I'm really excited about Colombia because I was born there, so I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy also that there are 2 female coaches on South America. This is Costa Rica and Ecuador. And I think that's a big change because we have new role models to follow, and I'm really happy about that. Also, what you said about more teams coming to the Cup, that's really cool. And I'm really happy about also what's going on in Cameroon and Nigeria. They had very, very strong teams, and I was really happy to see the games.
Sarah, let's talk about the women's tournament specifically. You have spent 2 decades promoting gender inclusion in sports. How much progress has been made specifically in women's soccer?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's tremendous progress. As Juliana says, this is still a you've come a long way, baby story. There's still a lot of room before we reach a critical mass globally in not just, girls and women's access, but the, media representation, the corporate sponsorships and so forth. But, Moya Dodd yesterday, one of the executive committee members of FIFA, reported that 30 million girls are formally registered around the world playing football, and that's tremendous. There has been absolutely huge growth, and it's come with a fight. There have been a lot of people advocating for a long time, for decades, for women's football and the growth of women's football. So, I think what we're seeing here at the elite level is the tip of the iceberg. It's excellent. There's great growth. There is, in the elite field, an incredible, explosion of talent and investment from football associations around the world. But what we're not seeing as visibly in the media and otherwise is the bulk of the iceberg, which is the grassroots girls game. And that has changed incredibly over the past even 10 years. So the 30 million girls are, the formally registered ones, but in, places like Cambodia, there's, girls playing Kenya, places where there had not necessarily been a legacy of women's sports or girls' sports at all. And now you're seeing, moving the goalpost in Kilifi, Kenya has got 5,000 girls in league fields in a rural area of Kenya. And that's just unheard of. So it's not just, in places like the US or Australia or Canada where, it's become kind of a socio-cultural norm that girls can play, but also in places in the Middle East where, there previously just wasn't access in a lot of places for females to participate. Is the doors are opening, the policies are changing. So yeah, I think that there's this is what we're seeing here is a bit of a microcosm of a much bigger opening, and clearly there's a lot of work still to do. We have not reached a tipping point where every girl in the world has access to the beautiful game, but I think we're getting much closer.
Juliana, it is a little bit surprising to hear that it's not being shown on television in Argentina. You are a player, you are a coach. Argentina is, a really big country when it comes to the men's game. Some people call it the spiritual home, or Argentina together with some other Latin American countries. How much progress has been made in the women's sport in Argentina? What kind of problems do you encounter?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you can literally say that every 2 blocks you can find a football field here in Buenos Aires and in Argentina. The thing is, more and more girls are starting to play also, but there's not like a political interest from the AFA, from the Argentinian Football Federation, whatsoever to take into account everything that's going on locally and actually invest and make a big change, a real change that is reflected on that is to be reflected on the national team. The national Argentinian female football team didn't make it to the World Cup, and I think that is really shows of everything that's going on here. When I played in the Argentinian Football League, we had to use the men's uniforms that were huge. We had no light to train. The coaches weren't paid, so they didn't have a real commitment to the team. This is the first time whatsoever in Argentina that I hear the word of the players of the national team, and they're actually very happy with the coach. It's the first time that they're being treated as athletes, as professional players, and this is a very good change. The coach is a man, is Olorticoechea. He won the World Football Cup in the '86 when they were champions, and he's really treating the team differently, and I think this is very important. The other thing that is going on is that few actually clubs have grassroots levels for girls. Many girls that want to play, they approach the clubs and all the answer they get is no. They can't play with boys. So the girls that actually make the teams is the girls that don't have a technical, physical, or practice or muscles. So it's really a problem. And you can see that, for example, in Mexico or in Colombia, physically there's a very big difference. Maybe tactically it's not, but it's a big difference, and you can see that it's not being worked in the grassroots levels. I think that's very important, and it's a big problem we're having here. Girls don't know where to play, they don't find places, and this is what we take into account, and that's why we said, okay, we have to make teams for girls to be able to play. So that's what we're working on. But I think there's a lack of very important political commitment from AFA and the local federations.
Sarah, as you've pointed out, there are several teams in this World Cup from developing countries. Let's watch this FIFA video promoting the sport in India. Let's watch this.
Aditi Chauhan is 19 and plays in goal for the Indian national women's team. She started playing football 6 years ago and has now represented her country on numerous occasions. But her journey, like those of many other female players in India, hasn't been easy.
So, Sarah, here we have a sport that straddles so many divides, north, south, east, west, rich, poor, and, is it being exploited? Are all those things being exploited?
So are they being exploited in what way?
Well, I mean, are we, is FIFA, for instance, making use of the fact that this game is popular throughout the world, that we can do more with this game than we're doing right now?
Yeah, this is a great question, and clearly an interesting time to be talking about FIFA and leadership on any issue. I think, there is really appreciate what Juliana is saying. If you look globally, there are only 2 presidents of FAs that are female for all the member states of FIFA right now. FIFA in Brazil last year passed a policy that there has to be at least 1 woman on the board of every FA. That's not a lot. There are only 3 women executive committee members. So at the top levels of leadership of FIFA, there are some incredible warrior, women and very supportive male allies, which I think are really important here to be talking about as well, and decision makers and influencers that are working on closing the gender gap. But there is still, I think, we are a long way away. And, when I hear about, think about India and have worked quite a bit in India with girls' sports in general, but in addition with some of the FAs in India doing work on gender inclusion, it's an everyday battle. The baseline is that girls are not invited to participate. Yeah. That is not a priority for girls, and it's not a friendly space. Yeah. And I think the socio-cultural shift in sport in general, and especially in football, comes down to a million micro battles and negotiations. You know, it is the girl in Nepal that's negotiating with her father to be able to get to the pitch. It's Juliana, you know, talking as a coach or a player to the FA. It's in the boardrooms, it's in the media, and there is that person that's pushing for a better representation, not a sexualized representation of the female athlete or otherwise. But it's a culmination, as with girls' education and the change that we've seen globally in the acceptance of that. It takes a lot of small battles that culminate into that tipping point.
Juliana, you coach girls in the slums of Buenos Aires. You know, when you look at a sport like football, how is it changing their lives?
Yeah, well, the first thing is obviously creating a place where they think they belong, a safe space. We specifically work in Villa 31 in Buenos Aires. It's a very big slum. At the beginning, the coach was the pitch was just prohibited for women. We were not allowed to play there. And the first thing we did is claim this space, is to claim the right to play, claim the right to use, and to choose what we want to play. And specifically, the field in Villa 31 is like the public space for excellence. Everything happens there. They have a very big tournament for men on Sundays and Saturdays. Everybody gathers around. It's like a very big public space. And when we as women took over this place, it was a symbolic win that was very important, because we were saying to them, like, we have the right to be on the public space. We have the right to play, to claim the pitch. And we did this first with the teenagers. And when the small girls saw that we were doing this, they started to come. This was 2 years ago. And they claimed the space for them. They were like, I want to play too. And suddenly we had 30 girls, and we're like, hey, we have to do the grassroots thing. So we made a team for the girls, and we started playing. And the beautiful thing is that the boys that are 7, 8, 9 years old have naturalized that girls can also play. So tomorrow they're not going to tell their girlfriend or their wife, go wash the dishes, you can't play. That this is what the biggest girls were being told. They were being told that they had no right to play. Their right place was at home, taking care of the children. And like you said, like micro battles come, like negotiating the taking care of the children together. I mean, if mom wants to go play football, the father has to stay home and take care of the children. So it's micro battles that, in a sociocultural change in a long time, it will be different. I see the change now. The girls came and said, I feel this is a safe space. I want to be here. I belong in this place. And the boys, their age, are also understanding that we have the right to play and we have the right to choose what makes us happy. So I think this is what football is so powerful, because not only when you pass the ball to a fellow team member, you're also constructing a sociocultural bondage. You're understanding that you can do beautiful things together, that together we are more powerful as a team. And I think tomorrow, and we have seen that the girls that play football, the girls that are part of a team, are more less likely to be victims of home domestic violence. So this is what football does for us, and this is how we work.